So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to preheat the oven to 350. So now the oven's preheated and we're going to mix the batter up now. So these are the ingredients you'll need for making banana bread. You'll need 3 or 4 ripened bananas, and they'll need to be smashed up, which I'm going to do in a second. And you'll need 1/3 of a cup of butter, which is right there, and that's going to be needed to be melted, and we'll do that in a sec. And you need a cup of sugar, which can be reduced to 3/4 of a cup, depending on how sweet you like it. And we need 1 beaten egg, and we're going to do that. And a teaspoon of vanilla, a teaspoon of baking soda, a pinch of salt, and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And then we're going to mix this up, and we're going to make banana loaf. And I'm going to show you how to do that in just 1 sec. We're just going to fast forward for a sec. So what we're going to do now is we're going to melt the butter, and we're going to put it in for about 30 seconds. We're going to click the 30 seconds, and we're going to have it melt in. So melt the butter, and then once we get the butter melted, you're going to follow to the next step. So what we're going to do now is we're going to smash up the bananas, and we're going to use 4. You can use 3 or 4 depending on how much flavor you actually want in there. And I got these bananas on sale for 39 cents a pound because they are overripe and pretty well at this point. The only thing you could do with them is bake with them at this point. No one wants to it's all brown and spotty in the lunch pan. So we have 4 bananas in there, and we're going to smash them up. Now, what I suggest to smash them up with is just a potato masher would be fine, and we're going to do that. So we're going to smash them up now, and as you can see with the potato masher, they seem to get smashed up pretty easily. And I like this bowl because it's actually the insert for my slow cooker, but it's amazing as in a mixing bowl, so that's why I use it. So once we have them smashed up, what we're going to do is we're going to mix in the melted butter, which I have right here. And once we mix that in, we're going to mix it in with a spoon, and then we're going to mix in the sugar, the egg, and the vanilla. So take that off, all the extra bits. It's pretty smashed up. And we're going to mix in the butter. And it's 1/3 of a cup. And we're going to mix it up. Then we're going to stir in the 1 cup of sugar. Now, if you do not like it as sugary as most people do, you can reduce that easily up to 3/4 of a cup. So there's the sugar. We need to put an egg in, and it has to be beaten, so I'm just going to use the container here for the sugar. I'm usually good at one-handing that, which is perfect. I take a quick fork. I should have already had this done, but I wanted to actually include it in the video. So now it's beaten. We're going to pour it in. And now we're going to add in the vanilla, which is already pre-measured, and that's 1 teaspoon right here. And now we're going to mix it up. And we're using just my little mixing spoon or spatula or whatever you want to call it. And it's mixing up rather nicely. So once that's mixed up, we're going to sprinkle in the baking soda, which is 1 teaspoon, and that's already pre-measured. And then we're going to add the salt, which is just a pinch. Oh, and we're going to sprinkle it over the mixture, and then we're going to mix it in. We're going to do that right now. So here's the pre-measured baking soda. There's the pre-measured pinch of salt. And now we're going to mix that up. And once it's mixed up, we can now add the 1.5 cups of flour, which is pre-measured as well. Makes it a lot easier for when I'm making videos to pre-measure things. You don't necessarily have to do that, but it does give you an idea that if you're currently running low on an ingredient, you would know that before you started to make it, which would be beneficial because you don't want to be halfway through a batch and realize that you're missing one of the important ingredients. So once we mix this up thoroughly, we can pour this into a greased loaf pan. I prefer to use loaf pans. And then we'll put it in the oven. That little beep you just heard was the oven telling me that it's reached its 350 degrees, so it's preheated. So we're going to put it in the loaf pan, and then once it's in the loaf pan, we're going to throw it in the oven for just about an hour. It should take about an hour. We're going to check on it halfway through, though. It's always good to check on anything you're cooking, because different ovens cook at different speeds, right? So it's almost mixed through. Okay, I'm going to finish doing that and fast forward to where I put it in the bowl. Or I'm sorry, the pan. Thank you. Now that it's ready, we're going to put it in the loaf pan. And I'm just going to use a ladle because it seems a lot easier than trying to lift this heavy bowl. Oh, should have took that out. Tastes delicious though. And it should fill one loaf pan. I love the smell of banana bread. And as you can see, the loaf pan's getting filled. I did make a little bit of a mess, but this pot is very heavy, so it's easier to use a ladle. So I'm going to continue to do this, and I'll show you what it looks like just before we put it in the oven. So I decided to whip up another batch, for I'll have 2 in the oven. Since they're cooking for an hour anyway, I wouldn't want to put one in halfway through, so I'm just going to put them in at the same time. Now, this is what they'll look like before you put them in the oven. Make sure your oven's preheated to 350. Put your timer on for an hour and let it cook. I'll fast forward to when they're done. So the loaves have 13 minutes left, and this is what they'll look like when they're almost done. So I'm going to fast forward to 13 minutes from now when I take them out of the oven to show you what they look like. So now that the timer has gone off for the stove, we know that the hour is up. We're going to take our loaves out. You're going to be careful not to burn yourself. It's kind of hard to do with one hand. So we're just going to let that cool, and once it cools, we're going to remove it from the pan. Now you're going to remember to grease the pan so they don't stick like I did. I just didn't show you, but grease the pan. And you have great, fresh, yummy banana loaf made from scratch, and it's pretty easy to do once you get the hang of it. Thanks for watching, and if you like, subscribe.